It's that time again. Time to package your beer. Can't decide whether to bottle it or keg it? Stay tuned and I'm going to show you an easy way where you can do both. Hello everyone, Coach Chris here with Wolf Moon Brewing. Today we're going to show you a way that you can take your beer that's ready to be packaged and keg it and bottle it out of the fermenter directly. The first thing we want to do, as always, is we want to get a final measurement of our specific gravity of our beer and document that. I'm going to take the bubbler out, take the lid off, take our clean and sanitized hydrometer, and get our measurement. We'll put the lid back on just to keep it protected while we're doing all of the other steps. Because we're kegging and bottling, we need to make sure that both our keg and our bottles are ready for the beer to get into them. For the bottles, make sure they're cleaned and sanitized. I'm going to be using a dozen bottles today. That gives me just enough to hand out to family and friends and put a couple into competition if I want. For the keg, I take it completely apart and I wash and rinse all the components separately. I then fill the keg with Star San and then start putting it back together. For a keg, there's two tubes. There's a long tube and a short one. The long tube is where beer comes out of the keg. The short one is how CO2 gets into the keg. And there's a little rubber gasket on the top of each of those. Make sure that the rubber gasket gets a little bit of keg lube on those. I'll link below a location where you can get some of that. It's a sanitary lubricant. Make sure that the seals are nice and good and that these don't dry out over time. Before I put those in, I give them a spritz of Star San just to make sure that everything is sanitized. I take the long dip tube and put it in the port that is listed as out. Make sure the tube is fully seated. If it's not fully seated, you might just have to spin it a little so that the bottom of the tube is in the center of the keg. For the short one, that goes on the in port. Now you have your two posts. One post will have a little notch in the bottom of it, and that is for the inside or where your CO2 gets connected. Give the post a spray of Star San. Make sure you put the one with the notch on the inside. And then make sure the other port or the other post goes on the out. Tighten them down with your wrench. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. For the lid, make sure that you put a little bit of lubricant on that rubber gasket and just place it inside the keg. You don't need to close it up at this point. Now that the keg has been sanitized, I've dumped out all the sanitizer and I'm going to put the lid in. And this time I'm actually going to close the lid. There's a quick release here. I'm going to pull up on the quick release and turn it 90 degrees so it's locked in the open position. And now I'm going to purge all the oxygen or all the air out of here and fill this with CO2. So we're going to head over to my kegerator and we'll take care of that. We're at my kegerator, which is just a converted refrigerator. Now that we've cleaned and sanitized our keg, we need to purge all the air out of the keg and fill it with CO2. To do that, first step is take your pressure release valve, pull it up and turn it 90 degrees so it's locked in the open position. Now take one of your CO2 lines, I've set mine at 15 psi, and put that on the in post and let it sit for 20 seconds. Now that it's sat for 20 seconds, close your pressure release valve and remove your CO2 line. The keg has now been purged of air and is full with CO2. Reason that works is CO2 is heavier than air, so as it's going in, it goes to the bottom and slowly fills up and pushes the air out the top through the pressure release valve. We've got our bottles here cleaned and sanitized, ready to go. We've got our keg put back together, cleaned, sanitized, and the air has been purged out and now full of CO2. There's a couple things left that we need to do before we can start filling. First thing we need to do that makes this process very simple for bottling is we need to put carbonation drops into each of the bottle. Now there's two different types that I've used. There's the first type that looks like a big throat lozenger, and you put one of those in each of the 12 bottles. There's another type that we're going to be using today, which are much smaller carbonation drops, and as per the instructions, they say to use between 3 and 5 drops for a 12-ounce bottle. I've experimented with these in the past, and for this beer, I know that I'm going to be putting 5 of these tablets in each of the bottles. So I'm going to go ahead and put 5 of these carbonation drops in each of these bottles. All the carbonation tabs are in the bottles. The keg is ready to go because we're not going to be carbonating in the keg using sugar. We're going to force carbonate that. Last thing we need to do is we just need to sanitize the spigot. So get your Star San, give the spigot a good spray all around the outside, and make sure you spray up inside the spigot as well. We'll want to take the bubbler off the top to allow air in so that you can get a nice flow of beer. We need our transfer tube and our bottle filler. These have been cleaned and sanitized as well. Put those together. Attach your hose to your spigot, open your spigot, and go ahead and start filling your bottles. Now that all the bottles are filled, we need to secure all the caps on them. I've loosely just put all the caps on. So hopefully you can see this. You just loosely put the cap. You take your bottle capper and you center it over the cap. And then just push down both handles, release, and your bottle is capped. I like to make sure that there's a little indentation on the cap, and that makes sure I get a good seal. So just do that to all your bottles. One item I forgot to mention is when you're filling your bottles, make sure that you fill them all the way to the top and get a little bit of overflow. Once you get a little bit of overflow, then you can pull your bottle filler out. You'll have a little bit of headspace left at the top, and that'll be the perfect amount of headspace that you need to assist with the carbonation process. Now that all our bottles are done, I always take the extra step and rinse them down, wipe them down, make sure they're clean and not covered in beer on the outside. I'm going to put those in a box and I'm going to store those in my closet. My closet is about 75 degrees for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, I'll put one of those in the fridge, open it up, and make sure that the carbonation level is correct. If it's not quite carbonated enough, then I'll let them sit for another few days and try another bottle to make sure that we got to the right carbonation level, and keep doing that until we get to the right level. Once I'm done bottling, you'll notice that I have my bottle filler kind of sitting in the top here. It's keeping everything clean and sanitized, and I'm avoiding touching anything else. My spigot is still open. Now we need to fill the keg. To do that, we need to first, there's probably a little bit of CO2 pressure in here. First, you're going to want to pull your pressure release valve. There was a little bit of pressure. I always turn it 90 degrees to leave it open just to make sure. Open your keg. Take your lid and put it in the bucket of sanitizer for this process. Now all you need to do is take your hose, disconnect it from your bottle filler. Carefully put that in your keg. Make sure it goes all the way to the bottom and let it fill. And that's all you need to do. Once this is empty and your keg is full, you're done. We'll be right back once this is full. Now that the fermenter is empty and the keg is as full as it can be, just remove your hose. I just like to stick it back in the top here, keep it from dripping or doing any damage. Take your lid, put that on there, and go ahead and seal it up. Now we need to head back over to my kegerator with this, and we're going to remove the air, any air that might have gotten in, and make sure that we get nothing but CO2 on top of that. So let's head over to the kegerator. We're back at my kegerator. Now that the keg is mostly filled with beer, it's time to purge any air that might have gotten into the keg during the filling process. To do that, we're going to take our CO2 line. This time it's set at 25 psi. We're going to put that on the in post. And let it fill up. Now that it's filled up, we're going to take the pressure release valve and we're going to pull it up and let it release air. And we're going to do that 3 times. After each pull, make sure that the keg fills back up. Make sure that your pressure release valve is now closed. That allowed any remaining air that might have gotten in during the filling process to be expelled by the CO2. And now we've filled it with CO2 and we've put the keg under 25 pounds of pressure from the CO2 line. This is a good time to label your keg so you know what you have in your kegerator if you have more than one. Now that it's been labeled, we have our CO2 line on it set at 25 psi. We just need to put this in the kegerator and let it sit for 36 hours. After 36 hours, we're going to check the carbonation. If the carbonation level is where we're at, great. We'll reduce the pressure to serving pressure, whatever that happens to be for your kegerator. If it's not and you need some more carbonation, let it sit for another 12 hours and check it. And keep doing that until you get to the right carbonation level. Some people will do other forced carboning techniques. I personally don't like them. I like the 25 psi for 36 hours and go from there to make sure that I don't overcarbonate my beer. But that's up to you. If you're interested in using other carbonation techniques, go for it, whatever works for you. This process has worked for me for years and I've had really good success with it. That's it. We've kegged and bottled our beer. Now it's just a little bit of time before we get to enjoy it. All that's left today is a little bit of cleanup, which I'll do off camera. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch my video today. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell to be notified anytime I post a new video. And heck, while you're down there, go ahead and smash the thumbs up button for a like. Remember, homebrewing is really fun, but so is drinking responsibly. I'm Coach Chris, and we'll see you next brew. For the keg, I take the keg apart, all the components apart, and I clean and rinse. For the keg, I take the keg apart and I wash each individual piece. For the keg, I wash and rinse all the not in its proper position. You might have to spin it a little bit to get it so that that bend in the dip in the all the drops are all the carbonation tabs are in the bottles. I take one of my CO2 lines, which is at 15 pounds of pressure, put that on the inside. Really? We're going to take... Wow.